Some days you wake up scared because there's like, accountants are going to be the first to go and no one will do accounting anymore. AI is coming for our jobs. I do think that accountants that are going to last are going to be the ones that are AI curious, AI enabled, but I don't think accounting's going away in my working life. If you only know accounting because you're putting it into AI, that means you don't know it at your core. But when you study it and you love it and you see how it's elegant, you can be a storyteller, and I think those are going to be the bookkeepers that get set apart.
So if you guys didn't hear yet, we have a foundational episode we want you to listen to, and kind of fun. You know, you're listening to Millionaire University, so treat each episode like a masterclass. So we already covered what you might call the 10-10 version of bookkeeping as a business model. That's on episode 350, so go check that out if you want to pause and then come back. We're really going to build upon that, and we're going to go a little bit deeper into what this business model really looks like in the era of AI and how we can take this a step further. So why don't you kind of take it away from there and just share with us even now how your business has started to shift and the opportunities that you're seeing in this industry.
Oh man, so it's big. Some days you wake up scared because there's like, accountants are going to be the first to go and no one will do accounting anymore. AI is coming for our jobs. But there are a lot of thought leaders that really focus on AI. I mean, I'm still kind of heads down. I'm a bookkeeper and I try to stay up on tech, but I listen to people who really, really think hard about it. And so I want to start off by saying, like, I anticipate having a job for as long as I want. It might look a little different, but I don't think accounting's going away in my working life. So saying that to maybe take some of the scaries away. But I do think that accountants that are going to last are going to be the ones that are AI curious, AI enabled, make sure that if you're working for someone right now in that industry, that they're empowering you to use AI. Right? I would say one of the biggest nuts that hasn't really been cracked is the security thing. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of private data, or big companies submitting their financials to their tax pro just putting it in AI, and then now that's like out in the public. There's lots of skepticism about, will AI really be secure enough to maybe do what people will be comfortable with? There's a lot of after the fact tools that are AI enabled. So forecasting, putting in several years worth of financial statements into an AI model and saying, what are the 3 big takeaways? And I think accountants are going to be able to work with AI better than just a regular business owner trying to do that themselves. Because at the end of the day, the business owners that we serve are experts in their field. Most of them don't like the numbers. There's a lot of fear behind numbers. Dealing with people's money is just emotional. And so to have that accountant with people skills to kind of interpret what maybe an AI could provide that business owner, that's still going to make us a valuable asset to the team. But it is coming. I think QuickBooks just today announced a partnership with OpenAI. Intuit is. I don't even know what it's going to look like. We're recording this in November of 25, but I just saw that announcement today. Lots of embedded AI in all the accounting tools. And so we just got to embrace it and learn how to make us do our jobs faster.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of a little intro about my thoughts about accounting and AI.
Yeah. Well, it's like any industry that maybe feels like they're under threat or under attack from this technological advancement that is still like, oh my gosh, it's just been a tidal wave, right, in the last few years. And I can't believe we're even at the couple of year mark, or 2 or 3 years since ChatGPT came out. I found a video in my TikTok drafts from like 2022, I think 2023. And it was like, there's this new thing called ChatGPT. I was like, oh my gosh, that would be so funny to post now because it's just so integrated into our life. You know, I'm hearing little old ladies at church meetings saying, yeah, I put it into that chat AI thing. So
yeah,
I think rather than running scared from it, like you said, it's really important to embrace it and say, what does this look like? Because at first it's easy to put up the walls and say, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have anything to do anymore because it's going to take over. We're kind of coming down off that high a little bit of saying we still need context. We still need humans who understand things more than just information to even know what to look for. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm on ChatGPT or Claude or anything like that, it still is only as good as the context that you give it and the information that you feed it. It has a huge, massive brain, but it still needs to understand what I need it to do and the interpretation. So you kind of started down that path and mentioned that some of these even apps are going to start integrating OpenAI into their platforms. What do you think, even on a basic level, like what are some ways that you have found are maybe ethically still okay to leverage AI to speed up your workflow? And what do you think that starts to look like impacting these hourly pay jobs? Because a lot of times when you're working as a bookkeeper, it's an hourly thing. Should people be shifting a little bit to just project-based instead of hourly?
So for sure, if you're the boss. Now, I have contractors that because I get paid on a project basis, I feel best about paying my people like percentage of the project.
Mm.
But I know a lot of people run their firms with their staff being hourly.
Mm-hmm.
I think that has some negative distance, like some distance in it. So like how I want to run my firm, I am just avoiding that problem because I don't want my clients to know how long that I work. And so charging for the value that I provide is fair, but bookkeeping is never going to command a high hourly rate. That is not the word that people associate with $150, $200 an hour, right? If you're wanting lawyer type money because you're a professional, you gotta either not call yourself a bookkeeper, and some people go like, oh, I'm a fractional controller or a fractional CFO. And okay, that's kind of one way, but you do have to have the skills to back that up, those titles up. Or you put project or price by deliverable. So monthly recurring clients would be like a month's flat fee. And ideally, the person who's doing the bookkeeping is getting better during the course of the relationship, but we don't talk about that. And I get clients that are worried about that. Those are not ideal clients. Like you can find better clients.
Right. So you mentioned you have your own firm, you have employees. How are you personally starting to leverage a little bit of this to speed up your workflow? I mean, I know we can even talk about integrating it into your systems as an agency owner. There's other ways to leverage this. So it's not just a fear-mongering thing of, oh my gosh, we're not going to have jobs. Like, it actually will make your job more effective in the long run in those ways too. But when it comes to the actual workflow that you're doing for clients, what are some things that you are starting to integrate now?
Yeah, so I want to start with talking about things that you can do outside of the clicking around in the software. So, for instance, a very powerful thing is using AI and integrations to do client meeting notes and client summaries. I have so many people talking about how they would have client meeting notes and then they would spend like an extra hour writing up those notes about what that person said about their business history and what kind of legal structure they have and all that. And we don't have to do that anymore. You can send summaries to clients. They're happy. You didn't have to do a lot of work. You might want to do like a quick smell test of what the AI summarized, but it's getting so much better. It have intake forms that kick off automated processes. Like probably not AI, but it's automations, it's tech. I won't talk to anybody if they don't fill out my form because it breaks things down the line. So I can't charge them if I don't have them fill out this form because I don't have their email to send the invoice to, right? Like lots of things that are built on that. And so that is not dealing with the debits and credits yet at all, right? That's just running a firm and using tech. I'm trying to think for marketing purposes, taking client calls and asking your favorite AI to help you come up with social media posts about like how you were a hero. Didn't just talk to someone for 30 minutes and they're like gushing about you, extracting that good case study that then you can share, like, oh, we just helped someone with a big sales tax problem. That is super helpful. And AI can do that really, really quickly, like almost create that bank of content for you. When I make a YouTube video, I ask AI to help me write at least 5 posts so I can be sharing it over the next year. I'll never make a FreshBooks tutorial video. So still, again, not talking about being in the software. I do want to say that for me, I work in a general ledger called FreshBooks. It is sort of lower end, lower tech. They use AI for their support. They use AI for a little bit of trying to guess classifications of transactions. And so that's going to be a really improved way that we're going to see that the AI is going to be the best at knowing like Home Depot is supplies. And it can tell that from the bank connection. So in my software, I'm doing that. I'm not taking reports and running them through AI yet. That's just because the type of business I run is sort of this lower end FreshBooks user. But yeah, hopefully those are some ideas. And those are just like outside of the software.
Yeah. And then, and that's going to shift too. I know we were talking before we started recording. I don't think we said this on the call, but the security measures too, we're still figuring that out. And so there's still going to be a need, I feel like, for a long time. You're going to have companies that are just old, right? That are not going to trust the technology fully. Like, I know so many businesses that aren't even using QuickBooks. They're like still using such old school technology, if technology at all. So there's still going to be this window of time where you're going to have a whole generation that will essentially have to die off, for lack of a better term, or we're just going to have to get into that new generation that's kind of grown up with AI, grown up with technology. I don't think it's going to be this overnight takeover. And so there's going to be this window of time where we still have that advantage where people need a person, right? Like they can't just feed their profit and loss statement into ChatGPT and say, okay, figure this out for me. So Talk me through too a little bit of where context is still going to be needed and relevant as a bookkeeper in 2025, 2026, even, through 2030.
Yeah, so I feel it's a strength that I have. It's just that being able to communicate with people. So being able to communicate, I try to use the word story a lot when I talk to clients. Like, this is like the story of your business. I actually use the word diary a lot too. And we talk about how like the bookkeeping software and the bank transactions are like a diary. And I can't remember what I did last month in my personal life, but I could look at my calendar, I could look at my diary and remember. And so they'll say something and think they remember when. They're like, well, let's look at the software. Let's ask the software, when did you buy that truck? And they're like, oh, that was like 6 years ago, not 2 years ago, golly. And so just this idea of being a storyteller, being a numbers storyteller, to take very complex things and make them understandable. Most business owners don't understand like how the profit and loss statement communicates with the balance sheet, and those are tied together. And so being able to talk about that and how when you make a profit, you're building equity in your company, and the equity is what your company's worth. And the better grasp that you have of like real accounting, like if you only know accounting because you're putting it into AI, that means you don't know it at your core, right? But when you study it and you love it and you see how it's elegant, you can be a storyteller. And I think those are going to be the bookkeepers that get set apart and are able to command the high prices, the value price versus, because ultimately what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of offshoring too, and that's already happening, right? So if you want hourly bookkeeping, you can get it for $10 across the Pacific. So that's a different threat than AI doing the books. I think that's a much more present threat. But that's not who I'm competing with.
Yeah. Okay. So I love that. So that personal touch of just understanding how to communicate. You brought up a really important point. And I don't remember if we touched on this too much in the first time that we had a conversation about this business, but I feel like there's so much opportunity to spread that accounting knowledge into like being a CFO. There's more skills that are required there, but you're really not just this person who's crunching numbers and balancing the books. You're really looking at like a comprehensive snapshot of this business, and there's so much more to that. So can you kind of talk me through, even for our listeners who are running their business and they might not even see the need for the bookkeeper, like what the nuanced things are that if you want to go into this, you can learn, and if you're not going into this, what you need to know that your bookkeeper knows? That's kind of a double-sided conversation.
Okay, let me see if I am understanding the question right. So what kind of bookkeeper?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Say it again. Tell me again.
Just kind of like explain what the deepened skill set could potentially be, or how we can think a little bit bigger than just a bookkeeper. Because you mentioned like we could go by these other titles. We can really make our experience a little more robust, and just kind of paint the picture for me about what a really good bookkeeper understands more than just, debits and credits.
Sure. Okay, I just wrote a little list of things to say. So helping a business owner prepare for growth. So if a business owner is going to ever need to talk to a banker, their books have to be in really good order. And sometimes it's a scary conversation. And so being able to say, this is solvent enterprise. That's why they need $50,000 or $100,000. And helping someone think through, well, can I afford that like the bank? Okay, so thanks for getting me my books in order. We presented it to the banker. They've approved me for $100,000. Do I sign and take the money? So, those are powerful conversations that you can have with companies, because you can predict, can they cover their debt service? Is there some cyclicality to their income? And it's like, well, you make all your income from October to March because of whatever reason. And so if you're about to take out a loan and you're going to have this like monthly payment, you need to build up a cash buffer to do that because of the seasonality of your business. Those are things that a bookkeeper, it's just going to be innate to us. We're going to look at things on quarterly and monthly and multiple years at a time. And again, we'll just see that story. So I think helping people get financing, talking to the bankers and anyone else who might provide financing, buying a business, like growing through acquisition is another spot I think a bookkeeper can help with. So when you're like merging two bits of finances, another one I just realized is selling. So you're talking to a business owner and who knows how, let's just call them like 50 years old, and they're like, I've done well, I've saved up enough, I don't have to work till I die, so what do I do with this thing now? Okay, let's come up with a 3, 4, 5-year plan. Maybe it's not ready to sell yet, but what can we do to remove you a little bit, hire some key people? And a bookkeeper who works for multiple companies, like a fractional one like me, we have the benefit of seeing on the insides of many, many operations. So I think that's better than asking like an in-house bookkeeper who only is very intimate with that one business. So those are some things that I think a bookkeeper has great skill at sharing beyond just keeping books.
Yeah. Okay, so I know we talked about this a little bit last time, right? With the difference between being that solopreneur, being an entrepreneur, and having, or maybe I just read this in your guide. You have a free guide that we're going to provide to, right? Is it a free or a paid guide? I can't remember.
So I'm actually charging for it. I can tell you why. It's because I think people will read it if they pay for it.
Yes.
So it's not much at all. And I made a code, actually, if you use the word millionaire, I think I've made it for 50% off. So
amazing.
The Bookkeeping Side Hustle guidebook is like for less than $20. And if you will go to a coffee shop, get a cup of coffee and read it, it will give you the steps you need to like, I mean, some people say that it was all they needed to get started. You got to have a little guts to have that be the only resource. It's comprehensive, but it's more like a 30,000 foot. It's a lot of what we said in that first episode 350, but it just goes a little deeper and provides you more resources to get more info on each step. But what was your question?
Well, yeah, because I was reading through that and I agree it should be charged for because it's really, really valuable. There's a lot of deep dives and good information, but not too much that you're, like you said, you could go sit down and have the framework for starting an actual business, which we love here on the show. But the differences between those, and you just kind of touched on this, like you're more fractional, so you have your own firm. Can you just explain to our listeners maybe a little more what that looks like? Because my husband's even kind of looked into this, like fractional work, not as a bookkeeper, obviously, but a totally different thing. And you mentioned one of the advantages is you're seeing inside so many different organizations and your skill set improves as you have a little more varied experience within those organizations. Can you share with us a little bit more about what that looks like from just like a business perspective for you and what the advantages are to being fractional versus just like going out there and just getting clients or starting your own thing?
Well, I guess to me, I don't know that I'm saying the distinction. I go out and get clients.
Yeah.
I'm a fractional resource for their business. They are not going to go pay someone $50,000 to be a full-time employee, right?
Yeah.
So I have used the word fractional bookkeeper for myself. I also say I'm a firm owner. But it's just the idea of you're serving businesses with your skill set and you're paid not via their payroll so that you can provide the thing that you're good at and that's all you do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not involved with these people's HR. I'm not involved with these people's marketing strategy, right? That's not my skill set. I help them with their accounting needs.
Okay.
So to me, it's all kind of the same thing. Some people, I think the word fractional, maybe it's just like, do you want to use that in your marketing or not? I don't have it written anywhere on my website probably, but I've definitely used it in conversation when trying to describe what I do. I'm a bookkeeper for lots of companies.
Yeah.
Does that
and
make
I guess,
sense?
yes, the distinction is more so going and being a bookkeeper for one company, which is not what we're really talking about. You can do that. It's a great skill, but most of the time you're going to have the most success being fractional, getting a lot of different clients from a lot of different places, and then operating with your own firm, your own agency, or just as a solopreneur.
Right. I mean, a bookkeeper for a business as an employee, that's going to be a pretty large operation. It's probably not that business's even top 4 or 5 hires, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've hired a lot of other people to help with that. It's a fine career. It's not entrepreneurial, though. Like, stuff is just, you show up 9 to 5 and you go to work. And I think people who are doing that now, that's a good person to go read that guidebook because you're probably not like, I love my job, but you're smart. And if you know the foundations of accounting and you have some hustle and you can get over all the awkwardness of running a business, which is, okay, yeah, I'm going to go get clients and I'm going to tell people I'm a bookkeeper. That's going to make you have butterflies in your stomach. You're going to do that. But I love those people who have those accounting industry jobs, who want to go out on their own. That's why it's called the Bookkeeping Side Hustle Guidebook. Especially if you've got some skill and you want just a few extra clients to start. It's a great way to know, do I have what it takes to make this a business? I wasn't working when I started mine, but I was a stay-at-home mom when I started mine. So I had my days full with that. And had just a few moments of the day where I could start serving 1, 2, 3 clients. And now my kids are all in school and I have longer days.
Yes. Okay. And so then I know you kind of answered this a little bit where we talked about just the value that you bring in with more than just the bookkeeping and the debits and credits and things like that. But when you mentioned to maybe expand that so that you're not just pitching yourself as a bookkeeper, but you are maybe a CFO, or can you give me some of the other titles and what other training somebody might need to really enhance their accounting background to be able to pitch themselves as more than a bookkeeper?
Well, first of all, there are loads of course creators, right? And the course creator world it's sort of fraught. You have to, do your research. There are people who have taken this idea of, wow, these bookkeepers are providing a lot of advice. They're basically being CFOs for these small companies, and they don't even know that they're doing that much value. And so they've created courses to say like how to position yourself as a CFO. Because some people are already like doing it. You're doing budgeting for your clients, like that's not a bookkeeping role. You're maybe helping them get that financing. That's not a bookkeeping role. Those are things much more controller, CFO related. So there's some courses. I think I point to some in the guidebook, but if you just Google it, you're going to start getting ads for all that stuff. You need to be good with spreadsheets and forecasting and storytelling, and you need to be good at communicating to executives. So people who are making $100,000, $200,000, $3,000 a year, they don't have this, I need to go find a CFO in their lingo, okay? So it's going to be a little higher up. They're going to be very busy. They, probably have employees who are pulling in their time. So you need to be maybe more of a true like executive right hand. So there's a lot of presentation involved to call yourself that. But you're going after bigger clients, so you have to be able to kind of feel comfortable in that, rolling with that crowd.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that though. There are lots of people who make a great living with just that monthly recurring, and they get all their bookkeeping clients down for like less than 2 hours a month of work. It's like crazy to think about. There's so much that you can automate and save, and reports you can save, and you can have them automatically send on the 8th of the month. This report that you've saved in QuickBooks is going out to your clients, and they don't know that you're not like having to like run that report every.
Yeah, because they're paying you to not have to know, right? Like,
Yeah,
they don't care.
and they wouldn't figure it out because it took that person years to figure it out. They're like, oh, I can save. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And they've gone to a conference and they went to the session called like Top Tips and Tricks, and so that's how like you can still, make a great living and at any end of the accounting spectrum, right? And we haven't even talked about tax yet. Like there's a whole slew of people who love tax and they want to do that in a fractional way. And maybe you have a real busy spring and then you're not doing business or your side hustle into off months away from tax season.
Yeah.
Lots of people want to be a full service place. You're like, I will do your books and your taxes. And there are clients who like that. They're like, oh, cool. Only one accountant that at the time too. Praise the Lord.
Sign me up.
So,
100%.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I love that. And I didn't want to diminish even just staying in that lane. I think just if people are like fearful or thinking, oh, that's not going to be a valuable enough asset or skill set to have. I think if you're coming into this and you're intrigued by it, I think we talked about this a little bit last time. If you are good with numbers and this intrigues you, then you're already a pretty good fit for this because not everybody even leans that direction. So if you are serious and you want to expand something bigger, it's good to know that there's kind of an ascension and a way to even expand beyond that if you want to be more in the executive level, but you don't have to be. So that's good to know.
You have to have like guts for decision making too. Whenever I have listened to like CFO trainings and, because a lot of this stuff is free, there'll be like YouTubes about this. They talk about like the monthly call with your client and they're expecting you to not report just what happened last month. They're expecting you to say, you need to hire 2 people. You have the finances to hire 2, or you need to fire 2 people. And so lots of CFOs actually outsource the bookkeeping. I know lots of firms, CFO firms, and they'll use local or overseas bookkeepers because you can't do CFO work unless the books are correct. Then there'll be that interpreter and that strategist based on the numbers. So some people are like, yeah, I don't want to do bookkeeping, but I can sure make a decision. That's an amazing gift to a business owner who's making so many decisions to have someone else help him or her make a handful of those decisions, especially big ones and strategic ones, forward-looking, 12, 13-month long decisions.
Yeah.
People will pay you for that.
Cool. Okay, talk to me a little bit about tech in a different direction. I know you were mentioning before, too, that there's so many more advancements that are not necessarily AI, but just new technologies. QuickBooks is kind of being, I don't want to say, well, it is kind of a funny pun, given a run for its money. But
Yes.
What are some of those things since we last talked that people can look into as ways to leverage if they are in this space already or if they learned from you and they're stepping into this space?
Yeah, so I decided to niche into different bookkeeping software that is not as large in America and do FreshBooks. It has been so exciting. It's provided me such just interesting and cool opportunities. And there were other general ledger tools that are in the space. I guess I'll just kind of speak to Americans that are like smaller in America, but that I think could be really exciting for someone to develop an expertise and be like an early adopter in that GL. And if you can create content around that, or, be the go-to person, especially if the software is like quite new, their sales team is selling the software, and then their users are, using it, and they're like, I need help. And so they're sending business to these accounting pros who decided to like get good at their software because they need help. Their customers need help. So there's one called Puzzle. There's one called Digits. There's an old software called Zoho. It's like 20 years old, but the bookkeeping part of it is me. So on the bookkeeping side hustle hat that I wear, I just am a big believer in like putting these other alternative general ledger tools in front of accounting pros. And then my hope is a few of them will be like, you know what, I'll go be weird. I'll go be different. I can learn a new software. If they've already learned QuickBooks really, really well, it's hard to go be bad for a couple of months. But like, in a way, they're kind of the same. You got to invoice, you got to classify expenses, you got to make some journal entries, you got to, classify payroll properly. So as a second bookkeeping software, it won't be as hard as learning a first bookkeeping software, but it does take some adjustment. But I think there's a lot of space in the market for someone who's willing to use those. In the guidebook, guys, I have links to the YouTube videos I've done on these alternative general ledgers. I only anticipate that there will be more. There's more. I'm not saying all of the names. I'm sorry for those of you who I'm leaving out. But people talk about that kind of stuff in my community, the free Facebook group. When do you think about like, there's one called Count? So many, because they're tech plays rather than like accounting plays. They're these like young hip coders who happen to take some accounting classes. Or maybe their dad was an accountant and they're building really cool AI native tools.
Yeah. And I love that. And we kind of talked about that before, how that was such a huge part of your success is niching down to FreshBooks and being able to be a go-to representative for a specific software, and how smart that is as a marketing play and just a business building strategy. And so if there's more players in the field, they can really follow that same playbook that you took with really creating not necessarily like this official partnership, but go be the voice of that, go be the face of that, because then they're paying attention and they're like, hey, we have all these clients and they need help. They're using us, but they don't know how to use us fully. So I love that. That's such a smart strategy. And another way that we can not fear technological advancement, but actually be really excited and grateful, because AI is what's driving the creation of a lot of these new apps and platforms. I know in other spaces in entrepreneur world, there's a lot of platforms that have been around for a decade that are like, oh, we've got to get a little more competitive because somebody can go create an app just like ours in a matter of a week thanks to AI. And we've got to like really dig deep and make sure we're offering something cool and unique and good.
Yes, very much.
Yeah. So tons of advantage there. Okay, where can people go to get this guide? I know that we are going to have it in our show notes, but if they want to learn more and anything else that you want to add, if somebody's listened and they're like, okay, what is the thing that I absolutely need to hear on this conversation before I dive in?
So I'm on Substack as a newsletter. The archive is there. So Bookkeeping Side Hustle on Substack. The guidebook is at bookkeepingsidehustle.com/bookkeeping-guidebook. And it's very digestible. It's an ebook. So everything I talk about, and it's like, and if you want to know more, here are the links you need to know. Or you need to learn a bookkeeping software. Here's some tools to do that. And so it's more like a handbook almost than a book. And yeah, I'd love to connect on Substack, or there is a free Facebook group. That's kind of how it all started. That's how the Bookkeeping Side Hustle Kate started, was 7 years ago. I accidentally grew this Facebook group. It's free. I know not everyone hangs out on Facebook anymore, but the reason why it's so important, and I mean, there are people who create Facebook accounts just to join this group because it's a private group and you can ask those questions that you could never ask in a public setting. Like, how do I record, the 401k contribution that my client just made? You can't do that in public.
Yeah.
So it's a way for us to support each other. And I think it's like the most friendly group of accounting pros on the internet. So those are some great ways to stay in touch.
Cool. Thank you so much, Kate, for giving us this next level deep dive conversation into your world and providing even more context and understanding and an option for people, a business they can start, a way that they can start generating cash flow on their own terms. It's been so fun to chat with you again, and I just appreciate everything you've shared.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for the work that y'all are doing, just helping people build lives that, that they dream of.